Catholic priests are addressed as Father because that is what we are, at least what we are supposed to be. Everyone in our parish boundaries are our spiritual children, no matter how old they are. But due to many factors, we always have some people who respond better to our fathering than others, both young and old, but especially the young who do not yet know everything. One such young man from my last parish assignment was the gentleman that I referred to. He had many good qualities and was a joy to teach and form while I was at St. Catherine's. On Monday the 13th of this month, I went to see him at the hospital in College Station, where he had been flown due to a horrible car accident the night before. The current prognosis is that he will be in a vegetative state the rest of his life. I'm telling you this not only to solicit your prayers for someone that I care for as a father, but also because so much of this situation is tied directly to the nature of the family. We see in the reading from Sirach that it is God who sets a father and mother over their children. He has a plan for marriage and sexuality. It's not a social construct that we can change on a whim. Sadly, too many people, Catholics and non-Catholics alike, have rejected this plan. Over the last 90 years, Christians have fallen more and more into the errors which deny this plan. God instituted the relationship of marriage between a single man and a single woman exclusively for the duration of their lives on earth, with the intention that when they come together physically to renew their bond, that children would be produced so that there would be more souls for heaven. Christ raised this relationship to a sacrament, and the Holy Catholic Church, in response to what she has been taught by our Blessed Lord, regulates marriage very strictly to safeguard the sacredness of this divine institution. And if I cannot convince you to respect what God has ordained for the sake of the love of God in humble obedience to Him, then please do it for the sake of others. Because any time we ignore this plan, we do harm to everyone involved, even if we do not immediately see it. That is, sometimes the consequences are eternal and not temporal. Which brings us back to the young man in question. He and he alone is responsible for the state he's in right now, who's driving over the speed limit without a seatbelt. But there are factors which contributed to him being where he is now, and they are related to the family situation. I have been told, after the fact, that he was regularly posting on his Snapchat story his speedometer going well over the speed limit. One of the evils of social media is that it encourages us to seek positive reinforcement for things that we share from people we might not know very well or at all, and who don't have our best interest at heart. And when we share bad things and they are positively reinforced, we tend to continue them. It is not because this young man was on social media that he is in the hospital, but it doesn't help. The real reason I mentioned his Snapchat story is because this young man suffered from a lack of affirmation. Because he did not have a healthy emotional upbringing, especially the affirmation of a father, he sought it elsewhere from the easiest and most dangerous place to get it, social media. Before I say more, I want to be clear. I am not condemning this young man's family, but they did objectively disregard God's plan, and it had consequences. His parents conceived him outside of marriage. Yes, we confess the sin and cherish the child, just as this young man was cherished by his family and friends. But the sin was indicative of an even larger problem. This young man's parents never got married. That might have been for the better. Many people who have children outside of marriage are not disposed to marry each other, and so we should not insist that they marry. Nonetheless, this deprived this young man of the presence of a father in his life. Regardless of what godless fools might say, the involvement of a father in the life of a child, but especially boys, is essential. God bless women who are abandoned by the father of their children, but children still need two parents. Men, if you are not ready for that responsibility, then do not do things that produce children. And women, if he's not the kind of man that will take care of the children, don't do things with him that are going to produce children. Beyond the circumstances into which he was born, this young man's family never really practiced the faith. They were cultural Catholics, although there had been some improvement in recent years. God's grace does work after all. But at first, this young man was walking to youth group and Mass on his own. He responded to God's grace and came on his own. His family had not been very supportive in this area, and God knows the state of his soul since I was last in this parish. This young man had been anointed and given the apostolic pardon by his pastor, and I prayed with him and blessed him with a relic of Saint Charbel Makhlouf. There are many people praying for him, and I have tried to resign myself to God's will for any of the three possible outcomes regarding his situation. But he is just one example of countless other situations with countless other broken hearts throughout human history. The majority of troubles that people come to me about have to do with their family situation, their spouses, children, or parents. I would like to conclude with a substantial text by Saint Charbel on the family, which is very appropriate for today's feast and this theme which I am speaking about. And the text is entitled, "Every Family is a Holy Family." The human family on earth is an image of the divine family in heaven. This is what transmits God's plan from one generation to another. This is what spreads God's love and his word down through the generations. The collapse of the family means the ruin of the Lord's plan for humanity, that is to say, a breakdown that removes salvation and sanctity from human beings. Every family is a holy family because it is in the image of the triune God. The deformation of the family means the deformation of God's image. The family carries the torch in the book from generation to generation, so that the world might continue to be illuminated by the light of the Lord. The family is the cord that ties human beings to one another throughout history, so that humanity might grow and multiply. If this cord is cut and humanity is separated from its history, then generations will be lost without history or identity. The family gives humanity its human identity and imprints the image of God on it. It safeguards human memory. Men without a family are mankind without a memory. Man deprived of memory goes around in circles. Humanity without memory stagnates in history and dies. The family is the basis in the Lord's plan, and all the forces of evil aim to demolish it, because they know that in destroying it, they will shake the foundations of God's plan. The war of the evil one against the Lord is a war waged against the family. This latter war is the essence of his war against the Lord, because the family is the image of God. Since the beginning of creation of this universe, the wicked one has persistently tried to destroy the family, which is the foundation of God's plan. The family is the place where a human being enters into communication with God and with his brethren. Without the family, this relationship would be destroyed and nothing could compensate for it. And if a man tries to repair the relationship by human means, it will become fragile and misguided, and along with that, all humanity will be subject to an evil that will tilt it toward inevitable death. Uphold your families and guard them against the grudges of the evil one by the presence of God. Protect them and preserve them by prayer and dialogue, by understanding and forgiveness, by sincerity and fidelity, and most importantly, by listening. Listen to one another with your ears, with your heart, with your mouth, and with the palms of your hands. Keep your hands far from the hustle and bustle of the world, because it will sweep away and destroy everything like a raging storm, and the violence of wares when they come back into a house. Safeguard the warmth of the family, because all the warmth of the world will not